Hello, water managers. My name is Simon Evans, part of the Water Management Systems Division at the Hydrologic Engineering Center. Today, I'm going to be presenting on the Baltimore District SWMS real-time applications, part of the SWMS Prospect course. This is the second part of 2 videos on this topic, and in this video, we will be covering the district forecasting routine. The first step of the SWMS forecasting routine for the Baltimore District Water Management Office is the data validation. To be able to run a SWMS forecast, data is required. This includes inflows to the reservoirs, flows downstream, and precipitation data. Also includes reservoir elevations. This is a group effort, and it's done first thing in the morning when the water managers get to the office. And the water management office uses data status summary tables and the data validation editor from the CABI. And there are multiple lists per watershed to focus on just purely the critical data to run a forecast. So it's this set of data that if it's not all there in the morning, the forecast would not run. And the data validation editor makes it easy to quickly see where there's missing data or if there's data outside of predetermined thresholds, so like spikes in data, so that the water manager can quickly review the data and make the necessary changes. And then those changes are saved back to the district database. Some forecasts or some models in the forecast run, such as ResSim, will not compute without continuous record for the look-back period. So that's why it's critical to go through this first thing to make sure that the data is ready for any forecasting throughout the day. Next, we'll go through the overall forecasting routine. The goal in a non-flood situation is to run each of the 6 SWMS watersheds each week. So each of the forecasters run a watershed 3 days a week between 2 modelers. And this could change based on staffing levels and what's going on in the watershed. If there's a flood, these would be run every morning. So the first step is to start a forecast. And so in the Baltimore district, each day you start a new forecast. Some other district offices will have a continuous forecast, but the process in Baltimore is just a new forecast every day. Next step is to pick a time window for the forecast. The look back is important, right? Because you have to calibrate to the look back period. So if you don't have a long enough calibration, it's hard to get a calibration for the HMS model. It's also important to look at how long the forecast is. Usually a 7-day forecast is sufficient. But if you're looking to determine after a flood event how long it will take to return the reservoir to normal conditions, you might need to have a longer time for the forecast. So it's important to keep in mind when you're deciding how long to do. Next step is to extract data. So is the data available for the extent selected? Got to make sure the correct extract lists are chosen. This includes precip from Cumulus and then inflow data from reservoir elevations from the district database. There's also a separate extract list for snow parameters. So that can be turned off during the summer months, so you don't need to extract the unneeded data. The next step that the water manager will do is to calibrate in the Mid-Atlantic, in the Susquehanna River and the Potomac River watersheds. They are very flashy, and events move through the watersheds over the course of several days, so constantly recalibrating. And in experience, it's found that if you continuously calibrate your HMS models, you can keep up with the watershed conditions, and it's never that big of an effort to recalibrate the model each morning. All 6 of the watersheds have snowbelt forecasting capabilities within HMS, and you can see the wide range of parameters to modify within HMS through the combined parameter editor within HMS. The water managers share forecast files in HMS by moving those files back and forth. That can allow each water manager to quickly see the other water manager's calibrations and then can continue for the next day. Some challenges that the district faces in calibrating their models is calibrating after long dry periods. They find that's can be a challenging situation to calibrate to those conditions. Also, gauge availability. So there's some areas in the watershed where there's a lot of ungauged areas, and that without that data, it's hard to calibrate what those unregulated flows would be. The next step is to place overrides in the ResSim model. Common reasons that are needed for the overrides are lake elevations are allowed to be maintained slightly higher than conservation pool when there's that flexibility in the water control manual, and that's not always seen in the ResSim rules, so that the model may try to quickly return to the conservation pool, and that might not be what the water manager wants to do that day. Also, the recreational releases are not included in ResSim, so they're at times needed to have whitewater releases or specific flows for downstream requirements, and those are not always computed within ResSim. And so we also adjust flow changes to a daily adjustment instead of hourly. So the water managers don't want to send out the dam operators at 2 a.m. in the morning to make a gate change if that gate change can safely be made in the morning at 8 a.m. So these are all reasons to make gate overrides in ResSim, and you can see in the plot how there's a spike in the releases, so you need to make those changes so it's actually what will occur at the project. And yeah, the importance of these changes, removing these spikes in outflow, and then make sure there's realistic releases. That's really important when they're sending out forecasts and lake elevation predictions. So we need to make sure we have reasonable outflows from the projects. And this plot here shows how overrides can be made in ResSim, and it's this approach is through a table and just inputting the release for each hour that the override is needed. So once the SWMS forecast for the day has been made and the water manager has determined what releases are necessary for that day, what products does SWMS provide, and what do we do with those products? So the products, the main one is reservoir plots. They are scripted to follow a specific template that the district is very familiar with. It's always consistent. It's in the format that water managers, emergency staff, and project staff have seen for decades, and so the look and feel is kept the same, and scripts allow that to happen. These forecast reservoir plots include lake elevation predictions, and then also provides the forecasted flow regime. Typically, they're done for a 3-day, week, or 2-week outlook. Also, there are provided comparison plots to the AHPS. So this compares the forecasted flow from the SWMS forecast to the Weather Service forecasted flow. This is a good sanity check to see how the SWMS forecast compares, and if there's a great discrepancy between the two, it's worth reviewing that location to see if maybe the calibration needs to be improved. Another product is the impact action table. This table is a script run from the CAVI, and it lists all actions at the project that are needed at a specific elevation. And it's broken down into red actions are on the rising side of the hydrograph, and then green actions are on the falling side. It also lists the max elevation at the project within the forecast window. So these are really helpful to have in the model what the project staff will need to be completing. So this can include closing campgrounds at specific elevations, closing roads, boat launches, and then when there will need to open those things as well. So it's much easier to have this information in the model instead of having to always go back to the list, paper list, to see what's going on. So it just kind of, for this event, will show you exactly what is forecasted to occur. So once the forecast has been created and all the plots and the products have been created, it's not helpful just to keep that information within the water management office. It needs to be shared throughout the Baltimore district to different offices, and then that can be provided to the public through project staff and social media announcements. So the water management office creates an email forecast narrative, and this includes caveats, assumptions, what overrides are to occur, and then plots as well. This is sent to all the water management staff, the dam operators, project managers, and also geotech, so they can be aware as well. And then also EM, the emergency management staff, get a report as well. This is also posted to the internal water management page, all the forecast results. And then once this information is set out to dam operators, and they can then distribute it to their staff. And we just included an example plot showing the amount of flood storage used, and then also an example email of what's sent out to district staff. So on a daily and weekly basis, the Baltimore district sends out or calculates or does the SWMS forecasting through HEC-ResSim, which is the reservoir simulation. Not every day they will compute through RAS to create inundation maps and through HEC-FIA for economic damages. These are only computed when needed during events, so less frequently than the other models. If there's a large flood where downstream flooding is likely, then the district would add that to their routine. So these inundation mapping products are produced and then uploaded to the flood inundation mapping viewer based on district determined thresholds. So the district has determined at what stages to create the inundation maps. FIA is not run during a specific forecast, but it is used after events to calculate flood damages reduced. So they'll look back to see how what damages were reduced by the projects being present and holding back water during the event. Some challenges that the Baltimore district has come across with their SWMS forecasting and implementation. the time and availability to run models frequently enough when balancing other responsibilities. During a flood event, there is a lot of coordination within the Water Management Office, with EM, with project staff, with leadership, and there's a lot of balancing to be done to respond to those requests, and also to run the models and to determine what releases to make from the projects. Another challenge is to training for other water managers to run these forecasts. At the time, the district only had 2 modelers that were proficient in SWMS to run. And when they have 6 watersheds to run, that can add up very quickly, and the time constraints to do all that every morning. Another issue is that 4 of the watersheds flow into the 5th model. This is for the Susquehanna River. 4 of them all flow into the main stem watershed. And so it added complexity to pass model results from the 4 watersheds into the 5th. So it also impacts the ability to get holdouts for flood damages reduced. And finally, here are some images from the April 2024 event. The district received 4 to 5 inches of rainfall over 4 days, and Raystown Lake in central Pennsylvania peaked about 40% of storage used. This was actually the 7th highest pool of record. And then Kernsville, which is in the West Branch Susquehanna River, that peaked at about 51% flood storage used, 43 feet higher than conservation pool, and that was the 3rd highest pool of record. This concludes the second part of the Baltimore District SWMS Real-Time Applications lecture. If you have questions about our software, need some help, or are looking for additional training, check out these links. They can also be found in the description below. Thank you for your time.